All right, good evening once again, and I want to thank everyone for being here tonight for the 2026 Greater Waco Chamber of Commerce Member Celebration. It's going to be a special evening tonight. This is our Chamber's annual report to its investors and partners. Tonight, we will celebrate you, our members, sponsors, investors, and volunteers, as well as Legacy Award recipients Monty Hulse and Paul Marable Jr. We are also joined by many past and present members of your Chamber's Board of Directors and Executive Director Committee. In addition, we have government officials and other special guests with us this evening. So bottom line is, a lot of special people for a very special night. Thank you all for coming tonight. Of course, events like this don't happen without great sponsors. You'll see some of them running on the side here, and I'll list here. But first, I want to talk about our presenting sponsors. So I'm going to go through these, and I want to ask a representative from these companies to stand when I go through them. First of all, one of our presenting sponsors, Allen Samuels Dodge Chrysler Jeep Ram Fiat, Ted T, General Manager. I saw Ted earlier. Thank you for your support, Ted. Another presenting sponsor, Ascension Providence. Philip Patterson, the president. I saw Philip earlier. Philip, thank you very much. There he is. Thank you, Philip. Waco Tribune Herald, Jacob Bradshaw, the strategic sales director. Thank you, Jacob. Thank you to the Waco Tribune Herald. Also, First State Bank. We have Ryan Morris, the president and CEO of First State Bank. I want to thank you very much for your support. Also want to mention we have a great video later. I got to see it ahead of time. It's awesome. You're going to enjoy it. And we had a great sponsor, our Legacy Award video sponsor, Fashion Glass and Mirror LLC. Thank you to them. Our platinum sponsors this evening, Alliance Bank Central Texas and the First National Bank of Central Texas. Our gold sponsors tonight, Capstone Mechanical, Central National Bank, and Lean On Me IT. Our silver sponsors, Action Rental Center, American Amicable Life Insurance Company, Baylor Scott & White Medical Center Hillcrest, Baylor University, Community Bank and Trust, Genco Federal Credit Union, McLennan Community College, PJC Investments LLC, RBDR PLLC, Texas State Technical College, Waco Family Medicine, and Walker Partners. And finally, our bronze sponsors tonight, American Bank and JRBT. Everybody should have some food by now. They do this every year, and they knock it out of the park. They do a great job. Let's give the folks at George's a round of applause. Sammy Citrano, Kyle Citrano, their whole crew. Really good food. Really good food. We appreciate it. So let's go ahead and get things started also with an invocation tonight. It'll be led by Harry Herlick of Congregation Agudeth Jacob.
Thank you, Dan. I'm honored to offer our invocation tonight. Will you join me in prayer? Heavenly God, we stand before you in reverence and thanksgiving. As humble supporters of our community, we thank you most sincerely for your marvelous world of precious designs, for the glorious strength and wisdom you give us, and for the innumerable blessings of friends and family who enrich our lives. Help us to remember with kindness those who are infirmed or bereaved and who are living in fear or desperate loneliness or living without freedom. We ask that you continue to bless our men and women in military, our first responders, and our educators. We fervently ask your guidance to our leaders in all levels of city, state, and national government so that their decisions promote our safety, security, fairness, compassion, and success for all. Bless also our past, present, and future Greater Waco Chamber of Commerce staff, and volunteers with energy, passion, and intelligence to move forward so as to benefit every community citizen in their commercial efforts and personal living. Help us to seek truth without malice, investigate action without prejudice, and use our logic to support noble causes with honor. And we close with some meaningful words borrowed from Archbishop Hebda of Minnesota. He writes, "God of truth, teach us to face difficult realities with honesty and care, to seek accountability without cruelty, and to work for change without losing our humanity. All this we offer and we ask as we each in our own way pray. Amen."
Thank you very much, Harry. At this time, I'd like to welcome to the stage Carolyn Hafferkamp, your Chamber's 2025 chairwoman, to give a short report about the work and impacts of the Greater Waco Chamber last year.
Good evening. It has been my honor to serve as chair this year. I've had a front row seat to the work of two fantastic teams. The first is the city-county chamber partnership that champions our area's economic development. And the second is the chamber team led by Matt Metters, who is collectively responsible for the progress we're about to hear. We are fortunate to have this level of expertise and collaboration in our community. First, the Chamber's award-winning economic development work is led by Chris Collins and her team, Seth Morris, Molly Merritt, Lexi Rail, Gil Salinas, and Tori Lenz. During the year, we helped facilitate $200 million in new investment through expansion of 3 existing businesses and the attraction of 4 new businesses into Greater Waco. These projects represent over 500,000 square feet of industrial space, of which 75% is new construction. With 250 new jobs and more than 2,400 retained jobs, the $240 million in new payroll over the next 10 years will move through our local economy and provide a powerful economic lift to our businesses. While new investment is critical, so is the health and welfare of our existing businesses. The team's business retention and expansion visits allow us to better understand and respond to those needs. In 2024, your chamber modernized its economic development strategic plan, Build Greater Waco. And in 2025, Bob Davis, serving as honorary chair, led a group of community leaders to ask for your continued support of those efforts over the next 5 years. You answered the call, and the Build Greater Waco campaign exceeded its goal. So thank you very much. The plan includes a significant expansion of national and global marketing, retention, and recruitment initiatives. Thanks to the vision of Chris, Matt, our city and county leaders, they're fully staffed and ready to tackle the challenge. Our economic development public-private partnership has produced powerful results, and we look forward to our coming conversations with you. There's still much work to be done to create economic prosperity for all of our citizens. The next subject is near and dear to everyone in this room. Workforce and talent initiatives are led by Rachel Martinez and Andrea Lale. Guided by direct feedback from employers through the business retention visits, these initiatives are highly collaborative and were made possible through the support of the City of Waco, McLennan County, and the Chamber Foundation through grant funding from Howmet Aerospace Foundation, Texas Mutual Foundation, an Advance Together grant received in partnership with Prosper Waco and the Dallas Fed, and a College Board grant through the U.S. Chamber of Commerce. They address the full talent pipeline from K-12 education to higher education to the adult workforce. During 2025, we granted 61 paid summer internships for high school students, of which 2 were hired as full-time employees. Granted 19 teacher externships, allowing them to connect their classroom to the workplace. Offered career and technical education tours for over 300 high school students to visit local employers and learn the pathways to those careers. Provided a quarterly CTE Connections newsletter as a resource for area CTE teachers. hosted the In Waco Job Fair and Talent Forward Education to Workforce Forum. And we continued the Leadership, Education, and Development Program, which celebrated its 20th anniversary. This year, LEAD had 134 mentors, the most in its history, allowing 271 students to be mentored. $95,000 in scholarships were awarded to 11 students, bringing the total scholarship dollars awarded through the program to $794,000 since 2010. Next, leadership development, led by Rachel Ligon, is central to the Chamber's mission. Leadership Waco celebrated the graduation of Class 41, followed by the launch of Class 42, the program's largest to date. Inspired by Jackie Robinson's number 42, the class is focused on leading with integrity, courage, and resilience. Graduates of the program have created a thriving Leadership Waco alumni network. Teen Leadership Waco welcomed a class of 26 students representing 11 area high schools. These students explored the systems that shape our community and put leadership into action by completing more than 836 community service hours. And Leading Waco Women expanded its spring workshop to include multiple learning tracks and breakout sessions, creating a more customized, high-impact experience for participants. The program also hosted the Fall Summit and Leadership Award Luncheon, where Beth Wooten received the Leading Waco Women Leadership Award, recognizing her exceptional leadership and lasting impact at TSTC and throughout Greater Waco. We couldn't fund these great programs without resource development, which is led by Nancy Gepton along with Lupe Teichelman and Emily Varig. Scott Rogers led the 21st Total Resource Campaign with the theme Tailgate Time in Texas. He was joined by Matt Reynolds, Mary Ellison, Chuck Sivis, and Christy Garrett. Their goal was $1.8 million, and they raised over $2 million, thanks to their hard work and your generosity. In addition to leading the Chamber Foundation, which helps to fund the workforce and talent initiatives, Jacob Hogan is responsible for public policy initiatives. Along with Rick Tullis, Leah Cox, and their committee, Jacob developed the 2025 Federal Public Policy Platform that informs the legislation that we support. A delegation of community leaders went to Washington, D.C. to present the platform and advocate for our community. That trip included visits to the embassies of Germany and Mexico. We were also active in the 89th Texas legislative session with a delegation of leaders attending our biennial Waco Day in Austin. We continued the State of series, welcoming over 1,500 attendees across 4 luncheons. Highlights included the State of AI, as well as a visit from Governor Greg Abbott as our keynote speaker of State of the State. And in his spare time, Jacob organized an inspiring visit to Greenville, South Carolina, to help reinforce and identify areas for growth and improved quality of life that align with our vision. Now for the fun stuff. Signature Events is led by Casey Burks and Rebecca Sheehy. The team successfully hosted 11 events this year, including the annual sellout Mid-Tex Farm and Ranch Show, the popular Sports Luncheon Series with excellent speakers like Drayton McLean, who will join us later this month, 2 signature golf tournaments, the Allen Samuels Chamber Classic and the Big Cup Classic, Tri Waco, which attracts over 2,000 guests to our community, Freedom Ball, which celebrates our active duty and veteran military, Waco Under 40, which celebrates future leaders, and the Economic Outlook Luncheon. Marketing and Communications is led by Gabriela Curlicello, Keith Kessler, and Autumn Young. In addition to publishing the excellent Greater Waco Business Quarterly magazine that you all hopefully receive, the team creates all of the marketing material for the events and programs you've heard about so far. They are your link to the Chamber information and activities. And last but not least, Jason Powers, along with Michelle Williams, manages accounting and operations, but also leads and participates in signature events, marketing and communications, and resource development. If you are a Chamber team member or board member, will you please stand so that we can recognize your hard work during 2025? Now, as we look ahead to 2026, I know that our future is in great hands. Please join me in welcoming our next chair, Todd Moore.
Carolyn, if you,
Roast me.
yeah,
Yeah.
she never knows what I'm going to say. This will probably embarrass Carolyn, but she won't be surprised by it. When she came out of Baylor, she was a 4.0 student, never made a B. And my banking professor told me those were like unicorns because they usually get swept up by the big firms, big markets. Carolyn's here because she wanted to be here. She chose this community to be here, and we welcomed and benefited by it. So I think about that when I think of Carolyn. So the other thing about Carolyn, she has a very dynamic career, very challenging career at Central National Bank. And in addition to doing that and doing this is really a 5-year commitment when you sign up for this, and the nominating committee asks you. Most people don't realize that. You sign up as secretary first, and then treasurer, and then chairman-elect, and then chairman, and then past chairman. So it's a 5-year commitment to serve on the executive committee. And she does all that while raising 2 girls and raising Rusty, her husband. So, with that being said, there's a this I want to give you. It says Carolyn Halfcamp, 2025 Chair of the Board of Greater Waco Chamber of Commerce, in grateful appreciation for your outstanding leadership, personal dedication, and commitment to the Greater Waco area. Thank you, Carolyn. Thank you. In speaking before a crowd of this size, I'm reminded that multiple scientific studies have consistently confirmed that people's number one fear is not fear of heights, it's not fear of snakes or spiders, or even fear of dying. The number one fear is what? Anybody want to guess? Public speaking, yes. It's certainly my wife Kelly's greatest phobia, and she's sitting right there. You want to raise your hand, Kelly? Raise your hand. Thank you. I think about this when I think of Kelly. You know, I heard it said sometime, you know your spouse is prettier than you when you get to the checkout counter at H-E-B and the cashier throws that divider between your groceries, and you're like, I'm with her. I'm with her. I've been telling her all week that she'd have to say some words from the stage, and she said, nope. I said, no, they do that, really. And she said, in fact, if you call me up there and embarrass me, I'm never coming back. And she said, just like that, too. She said, I'm never coming back. And I said, Kelly, that's kind of harsh. We've been married 40 years. You'd leave me over a banquet speech? She said, no, stupid, I'm not going to leave you. But I'm never coming back to another one of these events if you embarrass me. So this may be her last time. And recently I've concluded that public speaking isn't really her biggest fear. That's her second greatest fear. Her biggest fear is her husband's public speaking. She says she just never knows what I might say. And actually, it's a concern with some merit. For example, because what I'm about to say next. In fact, I told her what I was thinking about saying, and she said, you're not really going to do that, are you? And I said, you know what? I think I am. So here we go. One of the Chamber's, I'm going to read this so I get this right. One of the Chamber's marquee programs for over 40 years has been the Leadership Waco program. Each year, a select group of people are inducted into the class to get leadership training, learn all about Waco's business, industry, and government. In fact, they even have a Leadership Waco alumni group that still has events and speaks proudly of themselves. It's a very prestigious group. I know there are dozens of Leadership Waco alums in the room right now. In fact, I wasn't going to do this, but we don't need to take everybody so seriously. If you are a Leadership Waco alum or you're in Leadership Waco now, why don't you stand up? Isn't that crazy? Thank you. Now, here's the interesting part. About 30 years ago, I was encouraged by my boss to apply for Leadership Waco. And guess who didn't make the cut? Yep. So, for all those underachievers out there, there's still hope. As a matter of fact, and you know who you are, if you were on that selection committee in 1995, no, I'm just kidding. I won't do that. But I've been wanting to do that for a long time. Seriously, and I'll be brief. I told Mr. Holtz, I thought about not saying this too, but I might as well say it. I told Mr. Holtz tonight, I said, I was so impressed. Sloan Kill told me that Charles Bank got 3 tables to come hear me do this speech. That was so impressive. So I know you're here to see, and it's not me. Seriously, I do want to take a few minutes to talk about why the Chamber matters. Why are we here tonight? Why economic development matters. Why getting involved really does make a difference in a community our size. Now, economic development can sound like one of those phrases that belongs in a report that no one actually reads, but it's not complicated. It's about jobs. It's about businesses being able to grow instead of just surviving. It's about whether people see a future for themselves right here in River City or feel like they have to move somewhere else to find opportunity. And that's why I mentioned Carolyn and many of those that followed after her that stayed. A pastor I like to follow up in North Richland Hills, Pastor Rick Atchley says, but life isn't just about competitions won, it's about connections made. So go make some. And at the Chamber, you can do that here. In a community our size, relationships matter. We don't do business with logos. We do business with someone we've met, we've talked to, and we trust. And you can do that here. Networking doesn't need to mean awkward tags and forced conversations. Sometimes it's just standing next to someone and saying, so what do you do? And the next thing you know, it turns into a referral or a partnership or someone you can talk to when you need advice. Or sometimes you can just have somebody to talk to when you need a friendly voice, and that happens too. And you can do that here at the Chamber. The Chamber helps businesses grow and get better at what they do. Through training, workshops, and leadership programs, they help you run your business smarter, and they help employees grow, and they help you keep up with change. And change is coming. One business speaking alone doesn't get much traction, but when businesses speak together through the Chamber, people listen. And that creates a business and friendly environment and a community moving in the right direction. And being a member matters, but showing up matters more. Attending events, serve on a committee, and just help. So who else in the room might be a Legacy Award winner someday? We're about to see some of those, and there's some future ones in the room, I'm sure. And lastly, as to the future, there's about 275 miles between Dallas-Fort Worth and San Antonio along I-35. It's the hottest economic development corridor in the country, no question. And Waco's poised to have a great 2026. I look forward to working with you to help make it happen. And while the work we do is serious, as you can tell, how we do it doesn't always have to be. So let's have some fun along the way doing it. Thank you. Thank you for showing up.
Thank you very much, Todd. All right. Now we're going to get to the presentation of the 2026 Thomas G. Salome Jr. Legacy Awards. The purpose of the Greater Waco Chamber's Thomas G. Salome Jr. Legacy Award is to recognize an individual or individuals for their work to strengthen and grow the Waco economy and make our community a better place to live. The primary focus of the award is to recognize their volunteer leadership, impact, sustained investment of time and talent, innovative thinking, and collaborative approaches to addressing community needs, challenges, and opportunities. The Legacy Award was introduced back in 2018. The first recipient of the award was Thomas G. Salome Jr. Upon Mr. Salome's death in 2021, the Legacy Award was renamed in his honor, as we call it, the Thomas G. Salome Jr. Legacy Award. The recipients are recommended by the Chamber's Legacy Committee, a committee consisting of all living past board chairpersons of the Greater Waco Chamber of Commerce and confirmed by your Chamber's Executive Committee. We have several previous Thomas G. Salome Jr. Legacy Award recipients with us this evening, and I would like them to stand and be recognized. Please join me in a round of applause for these great community leaders and economy builders. This year's Thomas G. Salome Legacy Award recipients epitomize what it means to serve the greater Waco community. Our first Legacy Award recipient is recognized posthumously for his impact on our community, Paul Marable, Jr. Please welcome to the stage at this time Ambassador Lyndon Olson to make some special remarks about Paul Marable, Jr.
Before I begin tonight, I'd like to, I looked around the audience a little earlier, and I noticed that probably 75% of the people in this room may or may not know or have known Paul Marable. I also will dedicate these remarks because it's more about the man, Paul Marable, than all of his deeds. But I want to dedicate this to a bunch of grandchildren that he has that have probably never heard anybody talk about their grandfather the way I'm going to. Paul Marable passed away on December the 19th, 2013. And I'd like to thank Paul Marable's family and the chamber for asking me to remember Paul when giving this recognition posthumously. There may be a kinder and more humble man than Paul Marable, but I've never met that person. There may be or have been a more responsible person than Paul Marable, but I've not met that person either. Today, the world, or at least our great country and in our community, there is a shouting for the modesty, the goodness, and the balance and the intellect and the common sense and good judgment of Paul Marable Jr. My time is too short to exhort all of the accomplishments of this husband and father and community leader. And suffice it to say that there were many. When I was reading his obituary, I thought there must be 100 things that Paul Marable contributed to this community. I've grown up with his children, Betty Sue and Paul the third, Pete, I call him, Linda and Rob. And I first met Paul Marable in 1965 as he and his wife Betty were leaving choir practice at First Methodist Church here in Waco. They always, to my knowledge, sang in the choir. And he and his family came to Waco from Abilene in 1961, where Paul at that time was leading the West Texas Chamber of Commerce. In Waco, he was always a presence in our city's life. He was what we would call today the CEO of the Waco Chamber, the executive director then, and after leaving the chamber, he went on to become, in 1976, the president of First Federal Savings and Loan. He was a community builder who knew how to build relationships with a quiet, modest self-confidence and never a need to take credit for his or others' accomplishments. He always acted graciously, and as long as I knew Paul, he always, and I mean always, gave others the credit. That was his leadership style, always seeking to accomplish something for the betterment of mankind. He was my definition of a gentleman, and anyone in this room knew that he was a gentleman. A keen possession of common sense and a keen sense of justness about so many things that he possessed, and was the driving force for the business community during his time at the chamber and later. He was one of the original forces to create McLennan Community College in this town. And he served for years on the board of our industrial foundation. And he was one of the positive forces to seek to end segregation in our city. It was during the late 60s and the early 70s, and at the suggestion of a gentleman named Virgil Walker, who was a senior executive at Barron's Drug, and a man who played a very quiet role to desegregate the public institutions, Virgil would run down the street into Paul's office after witnessing abject discrimination at the Piccadilly cafeteria. And he would ask Paul to lead the effort, and along with Joe L. Ward a former mayor of Waco and a former chairman of the chamber, to begin to address the issue of segregation in our community. Paul established with Joe Ward a committee which would later become the Progressive Community Council. While much of our country at that time was on fire and experiencing substantial violence, Paul went about establishing two committees, one of which was a white group of white business leaders and one of black leaders in the community. And from that, there was a sincere and serious effort to address historic wrongs in this community. Waco would be spared much of the violence and disturbance that much of America experienced, in no small measure to the work of these citizens, specifically Paul Marable. Dr. Oscar Ducange, during this period that I'm talking about, was the first black mayor of Waco and was elected subsequent to the meetings of these committees. And would tell me, Dr. Ducange, Mayor Ducange, would tell me in 1972 that Paul Marable, without fanfare, with thoughtful and considered intentions, was one of his heroes for the way Paul led during this turbulent time. Restaurants that were segregated during this period began to desegregate. The Piccadilly was the first that was desegregated. He was indeed a member of the greatest generation, and he was a symbol of the greatest generation all my adult life. I doubt Paul would have ever wanted to be described as courageous, but he was to me. He had been a prisoner of war during World War II, captured by the Germans at gunpoint and sent to a prisoner of war camp in Poland, and freed by Russian forces after 255 days in captivity. Tonight or tomorrow, when you're home or at work, and you're on your computer, may I suggest that you Google Bill Moyers / Paul Marable and witness a special documentary entitled The D-Day Reunion, From D-Day to the Rhine. There were 8 survivors from World War II being interviewed by Bill Moyers at Normandy. Paul was one of those 8 and was showing Moyers where he was captured in the battlefield close to the foxhole where he was faced the pistols of the German soldiers. In the documentary, you witness the character of this great man, though he would never see himself as a great man. In the documentary, you get the richness of Paul Marable's personage. We would call him a hero, but Paul Marable never, like so many World War II veterans, would ever consider himself a hero. I remember once his eldest child, Betty Sue, who's sitting over here, while we were both in high school, she would share with me that her father never talked of that period or that experience in his life, and later alluded to that very reality in the Moyers documentary. In the Moyers documentary, Paul would say, resultant of that time and experience in his life, he would say, after that experience, I don't get disturbed easily, and I feel I owe something to mankind. He would say, I survived. And that we have to decide as people, as individuals, what is really important in our life. For Paul, he would say, as he did in that documentary, God and family were those priorities. Paul's family was Betty, his wife, his children, Betty Sue, and Paul III, whom I call Pete, Linda, and Rob. And at times, possibly all of us were part of Paul Marable's family. We as a chamber, but equally as a community, had this patriot, a businessman, this loving human being with his thick glasses and his kind demeanor and his erect body and his little chuckle and his determination to make our world better in this community and the broader world in which he served. I'm proud of my chamber for giving this recognition of the life of this man that is and was a beacon for all that was good and decent, without pretense, with Christian rectitude, and as an example of character that I hope we all would want emulated, and proudly boast that Paul Marable Jr. was our own. Thank you. I want to ask Paul Marable III to say a few words and receive this award on behalf of his family who are here.
Thank you, Lyndon. It was pretty amazing for me sitting there and hearing what I guess people in this room thought of him. As his son, I can tell you that I shared many of the same observations. He was not one to want the spotlight or to seek individual recognition for anything. In fact, if he were here tonight, he probably would have been shaking his head like he characteristically did. Very appreciative of the kind and thoughtful words of Lyndon, but also not wanting to be in the limelight. Now, growing up, when I saw that look directed at me, I knew that I had done something wrong. And that was often followed by the words, "Oh, Pete." And I knew then I'd done something really bad. But if you knew Dad, and I know many of you did, you would also know that he had a belief that all of us have the responsibility and the opportunity to give back to our community in whatever manner we can and with whatever means. And it's obvious that all of you do share that same belief. And if you knew Dad, you probably heard him say, at least I did at home, that we would be amazed at how much more an organization like the Chamber or a community like Waco could accomplish if everybody worked together and no one sought the spotlight or tried to take individual credit for those accomplishments. So on behalf of his family, most of whom are here tonight, thank you for this special recognition of our dad and our granddad and your friend. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ambassador Olson and Paul. That was wonderful. All right, it's now my distinct pleasure to introduce our next Legacy Award recipient of the evening. Monty Hulse. Mr. Hulse is someone who played a huge part in my career. A short story here. About 10 years ago, I'm driving home to Oklahoma, and I get a phone call from First National Bank of Central Texas, which I'm a customer of. I'm thinking, man, all right. And it's Mr. Hulse saying, wanting to chat with me a little bit. I thought, man, this is some great customer service here. He's calling, I've got a checking and a savings account, so he really wants to talk to me. I'm a big-time customer of his. No, he said, Dan, let's go have some lunch. I want to talk to you about something. And it ended up changing my career for the better. I've worked for the bank that he got rolling here for a decade now, and so I just want to publicly say thank you to Mr. Hulse for changing my life. Other than making the great decision to marry my wife, joining the First National Bank of Central Texas is the best decision I've ever made. So I thank you for that. I really appreciate it. So Monty Hulse played a big part in my life, and I just wanted to get that out there right there. So don't take my word for it, though. There's a lot of folks that know Mr. Hulse and know how special he is. So we really have something special for you right now. We are pleased to share a video that encapsulates in the impactful relationships in Monty's life. This is Monty R. Hulse.
If you had to describe Monty in one phrase or word, what would that phrase be?
I don't think there's any doubt if you had to describe Monty Hulse in one word, and to me, it would be consistency. He's been the same man ever since the day I met him.
Well, I can tell you're getting pretty emotional. You must care about this guy a lot.
Very much so.
I believe entrepreneurs are really the economic engine of our free enterprise system. And I've always admired Monty. He was a successful businessman with a good job, and yet took the risk of buying a very small bank in Mart.
Or the First National Bank of Mart, brought it to Waco, then renamed the bigger bank, First National Bank of Central Texas. And I've just been proud to be part of that team, because think about this, back when that happened in the late 1990s, that was a $27 million bank. Today, Monty's still chairman of the holding company, and that bank is creeping up on almost a $2 billion bank.
And not only made it a profitable business, but one that helped to provide jobs for families in our community, and one who shows you can make a profit in business while making your community a better place.
He's done that with passion. He's done that with keeping longtime employees, giving them a reason to stay, giving them the opportunity to grow, teaching young people. He's created a culture and a passion amongst his bank that's still going on today, now through the leadership of Joe Barrow and Sloan Kill and all the staff. It's just unbelievable what it has done for our community and what it has done for the people in Waco to be able to have such a great institution.
My background is banking, and that's kind of where I met Monty. Before that, I was in the agriculture business and farming and ranching, and I was actually a customer of the bank that Monty became the president of. So I got to know him through that. Both of us have agriculture backgrounds. After getting to know Monty through the years, he asked me to serve on the bank board. And so that was a very enjoyable experience, and that was way back in 1980.
I considered it an honor and a privilege when he asked me to join his team there. He was president and CEO, and he led by example in so many ways. When he said he wanted us to volunteer, he volunteered for with more organizations and for more leadership opportunities than any of us.
Congressman Chet Edwards, a Democrat of Texas.
As a state senator and member of Congress, he was helping me as a leader in my kitchen cabinet doing fundraising every 2 years.
We are live tonight from the campus of Texas A&M University. This is election 2000.
Well, I will tell you, that was a fond memory for me, but for Monty, that meant he had to raise money and ask friends for contributions for an Aggie Democrat in Waco, Texas, and that's not easy to do.
In 1985, when I was 29 years old, when my partner David Tinsley and I flew to Waco in a DC-3 airplane to convince Monty and Scott Felton and Clyde Martin to loan us money to restore the Elite Cafe and Health Camp. And that night, I'll never forget. You know, it started a 40-year relationship, which is now when it was time to buy George's, he was there. And when it was time when he opened up his own bank, let me be a stockholder and eventually a board of director.
Monty encouraged us to be part of the community, and so I got on the boards and advisory groups of different things, from hospitals to chamber work.
Waco Family Medicine is breaking ground.
Waco Family Medicine announced a plan to build a brand new multi-million-dollar facility.
The board of contributors says that the new facility's future is built on the vision of its founders.
Monty was instrumental in helping build the modern Waco Family Medicine facility that provides health care, did last year, to 72,000 individuals in our area. So healthcare is an area some people may not know is quite as much about how much Monty has done.
You could tell immediately who the real leaders were in the community in that, and so I got to witness how he operated in that. He wasn't the first guy to talk or those kind of things, or make a big deal about how smart he is. In fact, just the opposite. He's a very humble individual, and would subtly give advice, like the way he managed.
So when we had challenges in our community, like potential closing of our Waco VA hospital, or the CEO of L3 telling me that they might have to shut down operations here years ago, I went to Monty and listened to him, sought his advice, and I always knew he'd have a vision for how we could save these important projects. And so Monty has left an indelible impact on this community that people don't even know about. But that's Monty, a humble man with empathy who did the right thing for our community with no selfish motives at all.
This award is named after a great friend and mentor, Tommy Salome. And I can't think of a better representative than you, Monty, to take this award.
I think because of his connection in every aspect of our community is the reason why he should be recognized for this Legacy Award.
Monty's life reflects the enduring values of Tommy Salome's life. And one successful entrepreneur and businessman who created jobs for our community, two, lifetime dedicated to community service and healthcare and creating jobs. And then three, and I think this is important, he's just, like Tommy Salome, he's just a good person.
And what a legacy you're leaving our community for helping small businesses and large businesses. And for your time, your commitment, your passion, your giving to people, your mentorship for all the young people that are growing up in the banking business, to be a better person, to be a better community person, and at the end of the day, sick 'em bears.
He said, Jim, you need to know I'm really just a old West Texas kid from Littlefield, Texas, and I just love the opportunity. The best thing that ever happened to me was choosing to go to Baylor. I fell in love with the city of Waco. I still remember so many wonderful businesses, everything there, people. Here I am. Now, we're talking about honoring Monty Holtz tonight, and it's been 50 years since he told me how much he loved Waco, Texas, and he's still showing his love for our community by what he continues to do today.
At this time, I'd like to invite Jim Howler to the stage. Jim will present Mr. Holtz with the award. He's ready. A man of few words, Jim Howler.
Oh my, thank you, Dan. First thing I need to do, though, is introduce to you our featured speaker of the night. Kelly Moore, will you keep going on up here? Stand up, Kelly, come on. All right, now, Todd, I've got to admit this to you. When you applied for Leadership Waco in 1995, I was on that screening committee. You've come a long way, big boy. Way to go, Todd. All right, I like it. Okay, Dan, thank you for all you're doing, this great job you do as emceeing this event. And I've got to tell you, it's a great honor and a privilege for me to be able to be the one to introduce and present Monty Holtz to you. Somebody asked me out there a while ago, said, have your notes ready?
when you introduce Monty Holtz, you do not need notes. All you need is time. I hope you have the time to let me just tell you a little bit more than what you saw on that great video. Chet and Scott, Sambo, y'all, that was fabulous. That was wonderful. But let me just go back a little bit for you. I first met Monty when I was the assistant basketball coach at Baylor. We hadn't even talked about this in 50 years, but this is it. Met him back in the early 70s. I was up in Dallas on a recruiting trip. He was working at a big prestigious bank up there. There was a couple of Baylor guys that worked there that I stopped in to see. They say, hey, you need to meet this recent Baylor graduate. He's a big sports fan. He'd love meeting, love talking to you. And that's how that statement I made right there came about. As soon as I was introduced to Monty, we talked a little sports, but he immediately said how he loved Baylor and how he loved the city of Waco. And I just think, you know, that was in early 70s. And listen to this. He just stayed there at that big bank a little while. Then he became most of you don't even know this, then he became the president of a bank in Oklahoma City, Oklahoma. Stayed there a little while, and then he was asked to become the youngest president in the history of the First National Bank of Waco, and he came here in 1977. Now here's where, to me, it really gets to the point of his leadership ability. Within 5 years, he became the chairman of the board of the Greater Waco Chamber of Commerce. In 5 years. Shortly after that, he became the president of the Waco Industrial Foundation. After that, president of the Waco Business League. You can go on and on. But all of that, to me, that's all good, business-connected type stuff. But Chet used a word in that video a while ago that's the best word to describe Monty Holtz: empathy. Empathy. He has empathy for the less fortunate. He has empathy for the people he worked with, his friends. I'll probably get a little emotional here, but examples of empathy, like with me, I used to snow ski with Monty. I was a terrible skier. I'd fall down a lot. He'd be the first one to come back to the mountain and help me up. We'd be playing golf. I was a terrible golfer. I'd lose a lot of golf balls. He'd be the first one to help me to find my golf ball. We'd be hunting dove. I'd finally hit a bird and it'd fall out in the middle of this old dusty maize field. He'd be the first one to come help me find that bird. But that was Monty. Now here's where it really gets personal. A few years ago, I had a very, very serious surgery. And that first morning I woke up in that hospital. First person I saw standing at the end of my bed was Monty Holtz. Had a big old green plant in his hand. All he says, Jim, I just want to make sure you're okay. I know you and Judy love plants. Hope this makes the hospital room a little better. But that's Monty Holtz. And I could go on and on this evening about more examples of what he's done for this city. But all you really need to know is he's really not a young kid anymore. He's like most of us in this room. He's not a young kid, but I hope everybody in here that's younger will use him as an example of what you can do to make a difference in this city. He not only did it way back in 1982 as the chairman of this Chamber of Commerce board, but he's still doing it. Chet talked about his integral part of what's taking place at Waco Family Medicine right now. And here's another, he's just spent 10 years serving on the board of the Waco Foundation. He's still a leader. And some of you are going to think I'm just a little bit goofy the way I'm going to ask him to come on up here on the stage. Don't feel bad. I have a wife of 58 years sitting over there that tells me I'm goofy every day. But here's the way I want you to join me as I show my enthusiasm for bringing Monty Holtz to the stage. 2 bits, 4 bits, 6 bits, $1, all for Monty Holtz. Stand up and holler. Yeah, Monty.
I tell you that Jim Howler, he will go off script sometimes, you know. We have everything supposed to be pretty well respected and pretty kind of like Todd's speech, although he was pretty funny too, so that was good. I really want to thank the 4 people that were in the video. Jim Howler, Chet Edwards, Scott Felton, and Sammy Citrano. They have been good friends of mine, been very, very important in my life the whole time I've known them, and we've all known each other for, you know, time's getting away from us, but, you know, 40 years at least. So anyway, I really appreciative of their remarks. They were very meaningful to me, and I sincerely appreciate that. There's a few people or a few things I wanted to make sure that I recognize. One is my wife, Shelley. Shelley is here, and she's been a source of encouragement and a very supportive wife, and so thank you, Shelley. Thank you very much. And then we looked at, we saw the bank and the little bank in Martin, and then the bank, First National Bank of Central Texas. But those kinds of things, you have to have a good, strong board of directors. And I am so pleased. We have 3 tables, as Todd said, of employees and officers and board members. But all of these men and women are very important to me. They have shown their confidence in us. They've all bought stock and made financial commitments. So thank you very much. I really do appreciate the relationship that I have with each one of you. And then our officers and employees, I was speaking of board members there, but we have top officers and employees. They're loyal, they're talented, and we couldn't have built a good bank like we have unless we had people like that. So I want to recognize our officers and employees and tell them how much I appreciate all of their efforts. And finally, and most important, I want to thank our customers. We have a bevy of good customers. We appreciate all of the relationships that we have. It's been interesting tonight. I am not as active in the bank part as I have been, and I've seen so many people here tonight, and I can't tell you how much that has meant to me to see colleagues. I've seen other bankers, longtime customers, on, and I sincerely appreciate that. I'd like to talk a little bit about this award. Tom Salome, and his name has been mentioned, but I'm telling you, he was really important to this community. And in thinking about my receiving this award, named after Tom, he was one of these guys. He was a very good businessman, highly respected, generous with his time and with his money, and always there to stand up when needed. So it pleases me a great deal that I'm able to get this award, and it's named after Tom Salome. The other thing that it's hard for me to really express how honored and how I feel so good about receiving this award. And part of that has to do with the previous winners. I know all of the people that have won this award in the past, and they are quality people that really Waco is so fortunate to have here. And so that, I'm grateful for receiving the award, but a lot of it has to do with the name being Tom Salome and then the previous winners. the Greater Waco Chamber of Commerce. We've heard tonight all of the accomplishments that they've had in 2025. Matt Metter, we're so fortunate to have him here running this chamber. When I was at the chamber president back in 1982, we didn't have near the capability that we have now. So, Matt, thank you for the good job that you've done, and we appreciate that. So, one thing, I'm going to go off script kind of like Jim Heller, but I have a group of friends that are out here on table 27 that I didn't expect them to be here. We are all good friends. They're bankers, Hayward Taylor, but lawyers, doctors, Baylor professors. But we get together periodically and solve the world's problems at least once a month. And Ron Lacey is kind of he calls himself an old turkey plucker, but he's the guy that kind of keeps us all together. But those guys showed up here tonight, and I really do appreciate that. That's really great for them. So, it's an honor to receive this award. It's hard to express that in the way I'd like to, but I really do appreciate this city. My first exposure to Waco was when I came here as a student. Drove into Waco, and I was from a small town in West Texas, Littlefield, Texas. Grew up on a farm out there, and but came to Baylor, and from the first day I drove down on LaSalle or whatever I came through, that I really just felt comfortable here. And as my career took me to the First National Bank in Dallas, I kept thinking, I'd sure like to have the opportunity to go to Waco sometime. It's just something that kind of had that in me. And sure enough, I was recruited by the executive search firm and to come to Waco in 1977. And it has been, Dan was talking about good decisions, best decision I've ever made. No doubt about it. But most of that has to do with people. It's kind of like what Todd was talking about, relationships at the chamber. And that's what we have here in Waco. And I am honored to receive the award, and I sincerely appreciate it. Thank you. Thank you. All right, we got it.
Well, that was fun. It's great to hear about our great leaders, and what a wonderful night. We want to thank everyone for coming this evening to our 2026 Greater Waco Chamber of Commerce Member Celebration. I think it's worth one more time. Let's again celebrate our Legacy Award honorees, Paul D. Marable Jr. and Monty R. Holtz. Let's also thank our 2025 chair, Carolyn Hafferkamp, for doing an outstanding job leading the Greater Waco Chamber. Nice job, Carolyn. Todd Moore, we wish you well as you lead our dynamic chamber into 2026. And want you to know the chamber staff and chamber volunteers are here to help you. I want to thank again our sponsor. Yeah, let's give Todd some encouragement. All right, let's thank all these presenting sponsors. These events don't just happen, like we said. We're lucky to have Allen Samuels Dodge, Chrysler, Jeep, Ram, Fiat, and Ted Teague. Thank you all very much. Ascension Providence with Philip Patterson. The Waco Tribune Herald, Jacob Bradshaw and their crew over there. And First State Bank with Ron Morris. Thank you all very much for helping us make this happen. That video that you saw, I want to thank Fashion Glass and Mirror LLCs for sponsoring that. Also want to thank our platinum sponsors tonight, Alliance Bank Central Texas and the First National Bank of Central Texas. Our gold sponsors, Capstone Mechanical, Central National Bank, and Lean On Me IT. Our silver sponsors this evening, Action Rental Center, American Amicable Life Insurance Company, Baylor Scott & White Medical Center Hillcrest, Baylor University, Community Bank and Trust, Genco Federal Credit Union, McLennan Community College, PJC Investments LLC, RBDR PLLC, Texas State Technical College, Waco Family Medicine, and Walker Partners, our silver sponsors there. Also want to thank our bronze sponsors, American Bank and JRBT. How about that video, too? That was outstanding. I learned stuff about Ms. Trost I didn't know. That was great. A very special thank you to Chip Wilson of 360 Solutions for creating such an amazing Legacy Award video. Nice job to everybody with that group. I want to thank Jennifer and Eddie Vera. I saw Jennifer here tonight with Action Rental. They do a great job. Brazos Media Technologies, the folks running the camera, running the audio over there. They're awesome, guys. We use them at the bank for stuff. They do a good job. Want to thank Pat McKee, Trammell Kelly, and the Quartet for their outstanding performance. George's, once again, Kyle Citrano, Sammy Citrano, and crew for this wonderful dinner. We got extra food at our table, so they did something right. We appreciate that. Eric Gall Photography, and last but not least, Coca-Cola Southwest Beverages for their product donation for this evening. Without our members, sponsors, investors, and volunteers, we couldn't have, it says right here, one of the best chambers, the best chamber in the nation. Doing great work. We appreciate it. Thank you, and have a good night. Be safe, everybody.